This is the video Georgia's tourism board prayed you'd never find. They spend millions selling you peaches, sweet tea, and southern charm, while quietly burying the truth about 10 of their towns. Today, we're revealing the 10 most hated towns in Georgia. And number 1 on this list literally pumped a chemical into its own drinking water for years, watched it pour out of the faucet brown, and swore to its people it was safe. There's also a town that ran one of the most crooked tourist traps in America, a field where nearly 13,000 men died, and a bridge tied to a horror no one was ever punished for. Number 10, Cordele. Right in the middle of the state, Cordele calls itself the watermelon capital of the world. And for 1 week a year, that's a party. The other 51, it's one of the poorest, most dangerous small cities in Georgia. Roughly 1 in 3 residents lives below the poverty line, nearly triple Georgia's average of about 14%. And its total crime rate tops 5,300 for every 100,000 people, more than double the state rate, leaving it safer than only about 2% of communities in America. Cordele isn't evil, it's just worn down to the studs. It was the gentlest stop on this whole list. Every town after this one didn't only fade. Something was done to it, or something happened inside it. And the next name is where the numbers stop being sad and start being frightening. Number 9, Macon. On paper, Macon looks good. Mansions, the Allman Brothers, cherry blossoms every spring. But pull the crime data and the postcard cracks. Macon has spent years near the top of Georgia's violent crime rankings, with a violent crime rate above 1,000 for every 100,000 people, more than 3 times the state average, and a city that recorded 70 murders in a single year back in 2022. Roughly 1 in 4 residents lives in poverty, and Macon remains safer than only 2% of cities in America. Locals will tell you exactly which streets to avoid after dark, and they're not being dramatic. Macon is a beautiful old city quietly at war with itself. But if a struggling city unsettles you, hold on, because the next town's danger wasn't crime. It came up out of the ground and went after its children. Number 8, Albany. Down in the southwest corner, Albany was once a civil rights battleground, the campaign Martin Luther King called one of his hardest. Today, its fight is with itself. Albany carries one of the highest violent crime rates in the entire state, topping 1,000 per 100,000 people, more than 3 times the Georgia average, with a poverty rate near 30% and an economy that never replaced the jobs it lost. The population has been shrinking for years as anyone with options gets out. Albany made history, then got left behind by it. But you can at least see crime and poverty coming. The next town's danger was invisible, and it targeted the people no town should ever have to bury. Number 7, Waycross. On the edge of the Okefenokee Swamp, Waycross looks like sleepy South Georgia, until you hear what parents here started noticing about a decade ago. Their kids were getting cancer, rare cancers, the kind you almost never see clustered in one small place. Within about 2 months, 4 children in and around Ware County were diagnosed, 3 with rhabdomyosarcoma, which produces only about 350 cases a year in the entire country, and 1 with Ewing sarcoma, which strikes roughly 1 in a million people, in child after child. Families begged for answers, and state and federal health investigators came looking, focused on old industrial contamination near the rail yards and a toxic site in town. To this day, no one has proven exactly what caused it, which is somehow worse, because it was never truly ruled out either. Imagine raising your children in a town where the ground itself might be making them sick, and the official answer is a shrug. And if you're still with me this far down, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because the back half of this list is the part people don't forget, and it only gets darker from here, which is fitting because the next town poisoned its own reputation on purpose and got rich doing it. Number 6, Ludowici. This tiny town on the road to the coast has one of the strangest dark histories in America, because for years Ludowici got rich robbing the people passing through it. It ran a legendary speed trap, and the local legend is that the traffic light itself was rigged, wired so an officer could flip it and hand drivers a fine on the spot. Travelers got funneled into rigged games and clip joint shops. It got so bad that the state of Georgia reportedly put up a giant sign on the highway warning drivers to beware of Ludowisi. An entire town blacklisted by its own state government. It cleaned up its act eventually, but the reputation is carved in. Drive through today and it's a quiet crossroads you'd never look twice at. Yet mention the name anywhere in Georgia and the old punchline still lands before anything else. And speaking of things a place can never wash off, the next town is a single field where nearly 13,000 men died. Number 5. Andersonville. Blink and you'd miss it. A town of a few hundred people, but in 1864, it held the most notorious prison camp of the Civil War. Camp Sumter was built for 10,000 men and packed with more than 30,000. No shelter, filthy water, almost no food. In a little over a year, nearly 13,000 Union prisoners died there. Of disease, starvation, and exposure, buried shoulder to shoulder in trenches. The commandant, Henry Wurz, became the only man executed for war crimes in the entire Civil War. Today, Andersonville is a national cemetery, a quiet, haunting place, and a few hundred people who still call it home live their whole lives in the shadow of a field full of the dead, the single biggest thing that ever happened there. But at least its horror is history. The next one happened within living memory, on a bridge, and no one was ever punished for it. Number 4. Monroe, just east of Atlanta. Monroe looks like a charming, restored downtown, the kind of place people are moving to right now. But in July of 1946, on the Moores Ford Bridge just outside town, a mob dragged 4 young black sharecroppers, 2 men and 2 women, one of them pregnant, out of a car and shot them more than 60 times. It became known as the last mass lynching in America, and it shook the country all the way to the White House. The FBI investigated. A grand jury heard weeks of testimony, and not one single person was ever charged. Everyone in that town knew who did it, and the silence held for years. The case is technically still open, and the restored downtown people are buying into today sits just minutes from that bridge, which still stands. A wound the town has never actually closed. And the next town is carrying 2 at once, a poison in its soil and a name the whole country learned in 2020. Number 3. Brunswick. This old port city on the coast sits on some of the most contaminated ground in America. For decades, chemical plants here dumped mercury and other toxins into the marshes, leaving behind 4 federal Superfund sites so poisoned that officials still warn people not to eat the fish they catch. But most of America learned the name Brunswick for another reason. In 2020, in a neighborhood just outside the city, a 25-year-old named Ahmed Arbery went out for a jog and was chased down by 3 men in trucks and shot to death. The killing, caught on video, forced a national reckoning, and all 3 men were convicted of murder. A town poisoned in its soil and scarred in its streets. And now we're down to the final 2, starting with the one that's going to sting because you may already be planning to go there. Number 2, Savannah. And it hurts because Savannah is stunning. Cobblestone streets under live oaks dripping with moss. One of the most visited and most romanticized cities in the entire South. A magnet for tourists and retirees alike. Here's what the trolley tours leave out. Savannah's violent crime rate runs above the state average, and even after a recent 20% drop, the city still logged nearly 1,000 violent crimes in a single year, with shootings that have reached the historic district itself. It's also one of the most haunted cities in America, built literally on top of its own dead, entire squares sitting over unmarked graves. Savannah is beautiful and genuinely dangerous at the same time. And most people only ever see the first half. If you're picturing a soft retirement on one of those pretty squares, walk it after midnight before you sign anything. Which brings us, finally, to number 1. The town you've been waiting to hear about from the very first minute of this video. Number 1. Rome. Up in the Northwest Hills, where 3 rivers meet, Rome looks like a healthy little city on the rise. But for years, the people of Rome were drinking some of the most chemically contaminated tap water in the world, and almost nobody knew. Just upstream sits Dalton, the self-proclaimed carpet capital of the world, where the mills spent decades using PFAS, the forever chemicals that never break down in your body and are linked to cancer. Those chemicals poured downstream into the Ustinola River, the exact source of Rome's drinking water. When the testing finally came back, the levels were among the highest ever recorded in any public water system in America, at a time when the federal limit for these chemicals is just 4 parts per trillion. The city sued the carpet giants and the chemical companies behind them, and the settlements have run into the hundreds of millions, roughly $280 million in all. Rome is now spending over $100 million to build a reverse osmosis plant just to make its tap water safe again. But you cannot undrink water. A whole city was quietly served forever chemicals for years, while the entire industry upstream got rich making the floor in your living room. That is how you earn number 1. So there they are, 10 Georgia towns most of the state would rather you left off a list. And look close, because the same forces keep repeating. A factory leaves, or a storm hits, or someone dumps their poison in the water and drives away. And the people with money and options get out first, while everyone left behind gets poorer, quieter, and easier to ignore. That's not a Georgia problem, it's an everywhere problem. Georgia just wears it out in the open. Every one of these towns still has people who love it, who will tell you the headlines aren't the whole story. And they're right, but the headlines are real too. And pretending otherwise is how folks buy a house off a pretty brochure and learn the hard way what it left out. If you think I ranked them wrong, or I left out the one that should have been number 1, tell me in the comments. And if this opened your eyes even once, hit that subscribe button before you go, because I do the best and worst places to move to in America every single week. If you're curious about the best towns to move to, watch our next videos on South Carolina or Tennessee by clicking on your screen. They have some incredible hidden gem towns most people don't know about. I'll see you there.